Oh my goodness! What a great start.
This is how we start the show.
We got totally thrown off, but it's okay because from Ybor City in 1714 West 7th Street in Ybor City, where it all began, it's time to jump into the rotation. Hit the music. Okay, what a special day. But first, let's go ahead and introduce us because we're the ones who started here. I'm My name is Gary. So I am the political director here for Suncoast Normal and the official token Jew here. To my right, of course, is Carlos Ermida, our deputy director, and the person with all the answers but constantly forgets the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And
where am I?
Exactly.
What's going on?
And from our nation's capital, up on the upper right-hand side, we have hitting below the beltway, Chris Cano, our executive director, and I'm already screwing up. Isn't that fantastic? And in the secret square below, we have a very, very special guest. But before we introduce him, we want to introduce something that one of our legislators had said earlier in the last election. Go ahead.
Are you satisfied with the pace with which the People's Amendment to get medical marijuana into the state has been going? And two, do you support any form of legalization for recreational marijuana?
Charlotte's Web Bill in 2014, I helped develop the expectations, the standards of you got to have a $5 million bond to be in the business. We don't want fly-by-night Cheech and Chongs coming in and trying to open
up. This is what they think of us. And the biggest fear they have is that Cheech and Chong might come to Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, Tommy Chong is here in Florida. Let's watch all the politicians run.
Tommy, wow, I own a head shop in Florida, and I like to think of myself as a Chong that came to Florida to open a head shop. So that's awesome.
They didn't want no Cheech and Chong there. Too late.
And this was the guy who set it up so you had to have a $5 million bond, and absolutely no mom and pop could possibly come to Florida.
Yeah. $5,000 bond. And who gets that? Oh, they just put it up just in case you're going to do what? Exactly. Sell it to old people? God, I love that.
We don't have the best program here. It's a medical program, but of course, as you have said, all cannabis use is medical.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Here's proof. Here is absolutely proof. The guy that was responsible for putting it all together was saying, we don't want no Cheech and Chongs coming to Florida. And now we've got one of the worst medical systems in the country, one of the most expensive systems in the country. The worst cannabis, some of the worst cannabis in the country, to be honest with you. So they screwed it up, and they screwed it up because they didn't want no Chongs here.
Or Cheeches. Yeah. Well, that mindset. You got to remember, this has been going on for over 80 years. The big lie. Can you imagine? They started. They lied because they couldn't keep alcohol illegal. They had to stop prohibition on alcohol, and so they looked around and found marijuana. Only black people smoke it anyway. So okay, let's make that our illegal substance, that everybody needs, because that's how so many people make money off it being illegal, and then selling the licenses. I love that one. Where everybody's okay, we're going to make it legal, but now you have to spend thousands of dollars for some stupid rules that no one's going to follow, and it's crazy, but we're plowing along, and we're making inroads. We're getting there.
Well, you were talking about how long this has been going on, and you've been really in it since the beginning, man. I'm not gonna say that you're one of the first people to try to destigmatize cannabis or really try to normalize cannabis, right? But you're definitely one of the first people that were popular in doing it. right?
Yeah,
So
well, what we did, we used comedy.
yeah,
See, comedy is the best weapon, period, for any change in society. If you get people laughing at their stupidness, their mistakes, they can change that easy. You know, it's that fear that we. That's what Cheech and I did with our movies. We showed you people, the regular people that smoke pot are the Cheech and Chong characters that we played. They're across the board. That's why we're so popular and still so popular, because we were everybody's dad, uncle, cousin, brother, friend. And I've been meeting people, in my journeys now, where the first words that hip words that they came into their head was from our Cheech and Chong records. And so when you start changing minds at when they're 5-6 years old, you're on to something. And here we are, years later. But all I wanted to do with the movies was to show how harmless pot is, and the people that smoked it and why they smoked it. It wasn't like they call it a gateway drug, but that gate goes both ways. You see, you can enter into the world of drugs, which a lot of people have, or you can leave the world of drugs with cannabis. And that's what's going on now, because cannabis is being proven to be the best fight against opioids and heroin and all the other heavy drugs, cocaine, all those heavy drugs. You can get off it with cannabis, because cannabis, you can't remember shit. You see, so once you're smoking up cannabis, you can't remember your own name, let alone what drugs you used to do.
Yeah, I remember back in high school, I was the first one to get Big Bamboo and tried to use the paper that it came with.
I love that. I love that. I love
And
seeing
that was our recreational days. We never even thought about it as medicinal at that point in time. Did you?
No. I didn't realize until I got cancer, and then I got on opioids because it was serious stuff, and they had me hooked up to a system where I'd hit a button. It was all intravenous, and I'd just hit a button, and that I was banging on that button like a drummer, boom, boom, boom. But when I got off it, I had to get off it. I went to CBD injections. I injected CBD, and then I started not smoking like a junkie, smoking like I usually do. A couple of tokes, put it out. That's the way I always did. But what it does, it calms the mind, and that's the greatest thing about cannabis, because people use meditation, they use religion, they use all sorts of drugs to calm the mind, and that's what the alcoholics do. That's why you get hooked on alcohol. That's why Hemingway was such an alcoholic, because he had to get out of his own way in order to write his books. But now you got cannabis, but that will put you into that state, and you wake up in the morning, you don't have a hangover, you don't have anything, you feel
it makes
great.
me wonder, you say something like that, and like I think if Hemingway smoked weed, how many more books would we have?
Can you imagine?
Put that rifle away and take a toke, yeah, or take a
Yeah.
shotgun for that matter.
Yeah.
Gary with the bud. I love it.
Oh, geez, Gary.
So, Tommy,
Sorry, Hemingway joke. We're Florida. That's the way it works.
you talked about the movies and how you help normalize cannabis culture. I mean, my father and I watching your movies, that was one of the things that we bonded with as an adult. And I'll never forget, one of my greatest memories was also one Christmas sitting with my father, my grandmother, my cousins, and all of us sharing a toke and seeing 3-4 generations of our family together. and understanding that cannabis was something that brought us together. You know, those were some of the most best memories that I have. And now that he's no longer with us, you know, I discovered the medicinal aspects when he got diagnosed with dementia and he lost the ability to talk, the ability to get out of his bed, and to see him be able to talk again, to see him not in as much pain. That was just almost miraculous for me. And
because he smoked up, and he regained his voice. Wow.
yeah, it was the RSO. It was the high grade, just that powerful cannabis oil that really helped give him the ability to speak after he had lost it for so many years.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Of course, the downside is Chris got arrested for picking up the stuff for him.
That's what brought me into normal and being a part of this movement. It was that I got arrested bringing his medicine home one day and was charged with a felony. Never committed a crime. Was top of my class. When I was in high school and went to the Air Force Academy. After high school and just it was a good college student. For the best as I could be. And when I realized it could affect me, that's when I realized we had to do something and start this normal chapter because it affects so many other people.
Well, that's always been the problem. When I was in prison, the prison was really run by the cannabis offenders because they're not only brilliant minds, but they're innocent minds. That's why they got caught, because they weren't doing anything criminal. They were just living their lives, and next thing you know, they're in jail for years and years because they fought the case, and some of them had firearms in their house at the time of their arrest, and so they ended up with like 20-30 year sentences, and a lot of them are still in there. But having done time, I don't feel. In fact, I know. See what happens when you get arrested and you're on the right path. That path doesn't change. In fact, the path becomes easier because now you don't have any influences, where you have to say make a living or live a normal life. Now you're like I was, you're secluded, and all you can do is work on your activism or your book or your trying to dig us out of this cultural ignorant mud hole that the society has put us in there for based on lies, and that's what I found out in the prisons the prison I was in. It was the cannabis people, even the drug counselor. Griff was his name. He was an ex-roadie, and so he would have meetings, anti-drug meetings. That was designed by the government, but his office became like the hangout for us. We weren't doing any drugs. We could have. I got offered pot almost every day I was there, but they were just trying to bust me, for violating their drug rules. And so what I did, I just quit smoking pot for my entire incarceration and my entire when I was on probation.
Wow.
I just wouldn't give anybody the satisfaction of me testing dirty, because one of the great things about cannabis is that it's not addicting. And I quit for 3 years. I had no problem, other than I got cancer, because all the time I was smoking, I was protected, basically, But as soon as I got off the weed and I got into the prison diet in that prison area where I was, the prison that I was in was called Taft. It was built over a toxic waste dump. That's where they first discovered oil. And when they discovered oil, they had no way of putting it in, capping it or put it in pipes. So what they would do, they would dig a big lake and just have the oil fill up a lake, which it did. And then that land became toxic. And so they built a prison there. And so practically everybody, including my friend Griff, who was the drug counselor, they've all died because of cancer. And that's what's going on in the prison. And you talk about pandemic. We had a pandemic there called Valley Fever, and whenever this is how they combated the Valley Fever epidemic. When the wind blew a little hard, they made everybody come indoors. Period. That was it. Just get out of the wind. Because the wasting disease that it caused, there was no cure for it, and there were so many people that died in prison. I witnessed one guy, because once you start dying, they just leave you in your bunk. They don't bother with you. There's no medical attention, nothing. And when you die, you just get buried in an unmarked grave. Just they don't care about you. They don't. They don't. Once in a while, if you're famous, they will notify the next of kin. But if you're just an ordinary guy, you're done.
I'm sorry. You're definitely like shocking me right now. I just want to clarify. Like, you saw this when you were in prison.
Yeah.
Crazy. You would think
most
that
of the
somebody
guards, most of the counselors, Miss Strickland, beautiful young lady, died of brain cancer. They're all gone. In fact, I think TAF is closed down now. I haven't checked, but I heard that it was closed. It was actually a nice camp, because it was originally built for women's prison. So we had doors on the showers, and we had our own water tank. We could take unlimited showers. You could be in there 40 minutes if you wanted to be, and which I've done a few times. And it was a camp run by the inmates, because the government, the people that work for the government, they're just not, qualified to take care of people. So the prisoners, we took care of ourselves, basically, and what they did, it was an honor system. They had a little chalk line around the perimeter, and if you wanted to escape, you could escape, and people did. And there's so many good stories that I got out of it.
That's like shocking. Like, you hear about somebody like yourself getting arrested, and you're like, oh man, minimum security. This guy's going to like a beach resort of prisons, and he's gonna have a good time. But apparently no. Like, apparently,
No.
like, you were fucking like some radioactive type shit. Like,
Yeah, and they failed to acknowledge it,
wow.
to this day. And so when I was there, the reason I enjoyed my stay so much, I was like embedded with the troops. I was in there for 9 months, and I'm not a criminal. See, and I had no criminal instincts or habits, and so when I went in there, I was I was an innocent for every
real quick, because like we were kind of discussing what led for you to go into prison. Like, it was literally a joke you told, right?
Well, yeah, no. What happened? Bush was going all out on the Iraqi war. Sound familiar? He needed a war, and so it was the Iraqi war. And so he came up with that bogus claim of weapons of mass destruction. And so when they busted me, my lawyers immediately told me, don't say a word, they'll hold it against you. But I couldn't help it, because when the press asked me, and I told them, well, the only weapons of mass destruction they found were my bongs. And it got a laugh, but it also got me 9 months in jail. Oh, by the way, the reason I went to jail, I figured this out just recently. Chong, my last name, Chong. It's not an American name, it's a Chinese name. And so this is the way Washington, the people up there, this is the way they deal. If you're not white and Caucasian, you're going to do you're going to do time.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
And that goes back to the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1884, when they first started messing with the Chinese that were building our damn railroads.
Well, so the disparities between African Americans, the Latino community, especially in federal sentencing, and especially around cannabis. You see them throwing the book at minorities, and you see these farmer bros getting a free pass, even making billions of dollars in the cannabis industry now.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not to mention, I saw an article that came out like a couple of months ago saying that the Capitol rioters spent more time in prison than you did,
yeah.
or that you spent more time than the Capitol
I did.
rioters did.
Then the rioters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you see
But,
there. Well, look at that Aubrey case. Where the prosecutor wasn't going to charge him. Period. They let him go. They let him walk with all the evidence of them shooting him on TV. I mean, it was so blatant. But that's the way that the mindset works with those people. When I was in there, the warden was so nice to me. I mean, he was a warden of the big. There were two prisons. There was like the maximum security, which, by the way, the language spoken in the national lockup was Spanish. English was not used. It was all Spanish because the prison is full of the border hoppers, the illegals, full. And the reason, listen to this, the reason it's so full was that a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them are there to get life-saving medical procedures done. If you are in a federal prison, it's by law that they have to take care of your medical needs, whatever they are. Open heart surgery, done. Anything like that, it's done. As long as you got federal time. See, that's why Aubrey's those people, they were trying so hard to get federal time because they're locked up in a regular, what do you call it? Not a federal, the state prison. And state prisons are hellholes. Oh, the worst of the worst. Federal prisons, you can have a sweat lodge, which we had. You have all these rights, and especially the operation. Listen to this: a Mexican never committed a crime in his life. He had to commit a crime in order to get his open heart surgery. It was a life or death situation with him, and so I'm not sure what the crime he committed, but it was bad enough to put him in lockup in a federal prison. And so he got his open heart surgery, and he's doing very well. Wow. That's why you see a lot of those, those car chases where you see guys driving their car and cops chasing them. The prisoners call it like that's their vacation. They're going on vacation, and so they'll commit a crime like that in order so you will get prison time. Because when you get prison time here in America, you get clean clothes, food, you get showers, you get protection. You're under lock and key, you're under the gun, and all you have to do is mind your own business. Because there's so many people in there, they can't single you out, unless they single you out. But who does the worst time is the guards. The prison guards, man. They have to wear uniforms. They have to walk around. I used to lay suntan, and I'd pretend the guards were like bathroom, beach attendants.
Yeah.
And I would say, "Excuse me, could you give me a towel or some sunscreen?" They wouldn't hear it, but it was we had a lot of fun with them.
Well, I mean, what does that say about this country where, people are literally committing crimes to get their health care taken care of?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's ludicrous. And then, you talk about the guards. I used to work in a private youth prison and in Florida, in Tampa, and just seeing how, teenagers who are, you're trying to get them on the right path, but then they're paying the people working in the jail $9 an hour. And it's like, where's the quality? It's just, it's ludicrous to see how, it gets worse the farther down you go. Federal prison seems to be, you have rights, and then, you get to the, state prisons. We had a guest on last week. He served 32 years in prison from a 90-year sentence for cannabis smuggling. And, in state prisons where there's no AC in Florida. That's just ludicrous.
Yeah, well, that's how slavery is still alive, because I had a buddy, he's a golf caddy now for Harris English, Eric Larson. Now, Larson, he fought his case because he was innocent. It was a cocaine case, and he was a user, but they busted his dealer. And they gave her a deal. You give us a name, and you won't do the 20 years that you're looking at. You'll do a couple, and you'll be out. Well, Larson, he was one of the names that she gave him, and he was just a user. He was not a dealer in any sense of the word. So he fought the case, and he won the first case, but it broke him. And then the feds refiled the charges. You talk about double jeopardy. They just refiled and called it something else. It's the same thing. And so he had no money to fight it, and he ended up getting 14 years for using. Now, what he did, and we should do a book about this, because they put him, because he was so intelligent, that they put him in the prisons where they're making missiles for the war. And so he was in like a bomb factory, and that's what they do with prisons. You sit in there. If you got half a brain, you work as a slave labor, making missiles for the armed forces.
Speaking of Tampa jail, I had to bring this up because back in the early 70s, you and Cheech came to perform over here in Tampa, and you got arrested on obscenity charges. Not for smoking cannabis or anything like that, but for obscenity charges. Tell us what happened there.
It was a scam. What's his name? What's the guy who showed his wiener? He died in France. Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
The Doors, remember Jim Morrison?
Yeah, he used to piss on his guitar, right? That's the guy.
I love that's how you describe him, like this guy that did this great music. You're like, yeah, he showed his wiener.
Yeah. Well, he got arrested, and so what they did at the hall, we played the same hall. They put a $5,000 performance bond. Now, if you get arrested by the cops or you cause any trouble whatsoever, you forfeit that $5,000 bond. And so Cheech and I did our act, no problem. We never insulted or hurt anybody. But we did a bit called The Dogs, where Cheech and I crawl around on all four, our hands and knees and sniff each other's butts. Well, that was okay, too. But what happened, they had the cops lining this in front of the stage, like we were going to be attacked or something. They're looking for, violence or something. And so Cheech went over to one of the cops. He had his back to Cheech, and Cheech picked up the cop's hat with his teeth, like a dog would. and then he peed on the cop. Well, the cop, he did not like being part of the act. and so they decided to arrest us when we got off stage, and they were telling everybody, and they let us finish the show, but they said they're arresting Cheech and Chong, and so the cops were fighting over who was going to take him down, who was the biggest fan, come on, I got all their records, man, let me drive them down. And so they took us down, and we got booked into the Tampa prison or jail. And because we just finished doing a show, we're still in that show business mode, and so we're like clowning around, we're doing jokes, having our mugshots taken and pose, at the booking place where they booked us and took our valuables. But Cheech, whose dad is a cop, and with me, I grew up with gang. I got a white supremacy tattoo from before the Hells Angels. It was a biker, and so I was been in jail when I was 15 years old for overnight, that kind of thing, So I was, I knew about jail. Cheech didn't. Cheech was he was a riot because he was nervous, scared. He didn't, he followed my lead, so I'm making jokes, he's making jokes. But when we got to prison, he got very quiet. At first he was joking. At first he was, because they put us in the drunk tank, with all the other people, and this one Mexican said to Cheech, in Spanish, so what are you in here for? And Cheech didn't want to say, obscenity, so he said drugs. and the Chicano goes, oh, tell him a black guy sold it to you. that was our alibi. And so Cheech, he was still in his comic mood, and he's talking to this jailer walked by, and Cheech goes, oh, jailer, could we have some pink toilet tissue, please? Acting very gay. And the guy didn't look at Cheech, the cop, And then about 5 minutes later, the same guy comes back and he says to Cheech, you come with me.
I can just see, I picture in my head him just losing it.
Change, right away. My dad's a cop. Yeah, LAPD. and the thing is, we rode the elevator coming down, and you could see dents in the elevator where people's heads were smashed against the walls of the elevator. And Cheech had to take that same elevator up. And what they wanted to separate us. That was their plan. They weren't going to hurt Cheech at all. The guys, the jailers, they heard more than that. But Cheech had no idea. And I laughed. Oh my God, I laughed hard because you're in a drunk tank. It's an experience. There was one guy. I think, Cheech had to go to the bathroom too. That's true. And there's no toilet paper. And there was one roll of toilet paper, and there was a drunk using it as a pillow. And so Cheech says, I need toilet paper. And I said, well, I don't want to wake the guy. And so finally I did. I pulled him to really very carefully he was passed out. He couldn't feel anything anyway. But oh man, I mean, it was a farce. It was funny. And then we got out, and no problem. The guy made us $5,000, and we got out on bail. And I think they fined us $100 or something. We never went to court anyway, because there was nothing to go to court over. It was just a scam, a Florida scam, by the way.
Well, if ever you will decide to come on down to Tampa again or Ybor City, we will get you a guaranteed apology from the mayor and from the sheriff of Hillsborough County. And my word is somebody else's bond, but I can probably get it done.
Oh, okay. Well, I would just go for them legalizing it across the board and just having us give us our medical and get out of the way,
That is a fair apology. You hear that, Chief Castor? You hear that, Attorney General, District Attorney Warren? That sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah, I hear they're watching. That's a possibility. How did you get from Bobby Allen and the Vancouvers to Cheech and Chong? That is curious to me.
Well, it's Bobby Taylor. Bobby Taylor.
Bobby Taylor. Very white name.
Bobby Taylor. He died in China, actually. He was up there with Wilson Pickett and Sam Cooke as a vocalist. He was one of the most incredible vocalists that America has ever seen. But he was also like a small-time ghetto gangster kind of guy, And there's Harlem is full of these people that had not been for their criminal activities, they would have been bigger than Marvin Gaye, and that was Bobby. He was that kind of singer. And when we found him, our drummer quit, and we were actually calling Bobby looking for a drummer. And Bobby said, hey, man, motherfucker, I can play drums. And so we said, well, great, come on up. And so he came up initially as a drummer for the group, but then of course he, with his vocal thing, he never had a chance to play drums a few times. But for the most part, when you get a singer like that, stop the presses. Everybody came to see him, and our club just incredible. we started looking for a bigger club because we were packing them in like crazy just to hear Bobby. And so when the Supremes heard Bobby, and the rest of us, of course, they signed us right away, or they had Barry Gordy fly in and sign us. And then we went to Detroit, and we recorded a record called "Does Your Mama Know About Me," which I wrote. And then they kind of put us out there with the rest of them, and we were like a one-hit wonder. We never had a second one and hit. And so eventually I got fired from a road manager. We were backing up one of Barry Gordy's girlfriends, and I had to go get a green card. And the guy had no idea what a green card was, so I had to miss a gig. And by missing the gig, I got the green card, but I had to miss the gig. And because I missed the gig, I got fired. And then Barry Gordy called me up a couple of days after that and said, "Oh, you're not fired. Been a mistake, blah, blah, blah." And I told Barry, I said, "You know what? I think I'm going to stay fired." I told him I want to become a Barry Gordy. I don't want to work for one. And it was the right thing to say because Barry goes, "Okay, I'm with you, dude." And he gave me a nice severance pay. And he actually helped me become, the Cheech and Chong. So that's what happened there.
Yeah, I'm from Detroit, so I can concur exactly about all that kind of stuff. I grew up hanging out in Greektown and all that bit, and
Oh, yeah.
I understand you're doing quite a bit now for the city of Detroit and for Michigan.
Oh, yeah. We got our product in there. And yeah, it was funny. We were in Detroit when they passed the medical, and the word never got to the airport. So we're flying out of Detroit. And of course, my son is my manager, my son, everybody he gave me weed, and they gave me a big sealer jar full of weed. My son kind of took it. "Yeah, okay, I'll take that." Puts it in his bag. Then when we get to the airport, it's going through the X-ray machine, and of course the TSA guy stop, looks at it. "What's this?" And my son goes, "Oh, that's my dad's weed." And he's got cancer, and he's 80 years old. And the guy says, okay, well, we have to ask the police. And they called the cop down from his office in the airport, and it was legal for medical, and so the cop just said, fax him my legal papers saying, that my doctor's permission. And so we went to LA, got doctor's permission, texted to him right away. But that was, I love my son. When he, at first it was his, but when he was going to go to jail over it, it's mine.
Yeah, Detroit's definitely changed. But last time I was in Greektown, it was pretty dank over there.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
You probably never got to the head shop in Greektown, did you? During the 60s, they had the Greektown was all hippie. It was hippie land, and that's where you go, get the anything hippie, including weed. Yeah, Detroit was cool, man.
Well, my favorite head shop was actually in Hazel Park. We called it Hazel Tucky at the time, but it's the same thing.
How about Belle Isle? Belle Isle, is that what it's called? Yeah. Did you ever hang out there?
Absolutely, because there wasn't very many police around there.
No, it was a great place.
We should sit by that giant fountain and just enjoy the fresh air.
Yeah,
we had it around there.
No, Detroit, man, and we're looking at this place. I got offered a house when I was there, and I'm Canadian, and you offer any Canadian a house, he'll say, yeah, he don't give a shit where it is, I'll take it. But it was a Detroit house, and the thing was they needed someone to upkeep it and pay taxes and the water and electricity and all that shit, because Detroit at that time, well, it was during the riot, Detroit was still smoldering when we got there. And it was like a war zone. It looked like Putin had just attacked it, but it was crazy. But here we are. We made it.
So Tommy, we talked a lot about a lot of old school stuff recently, and you talked about getting cancer. I want to talk about your whole plight into medical marijuana, right? I swear this is the first time I ever heard that you can stick RSO up your butt. It was like a news news interview that you were doing. Can you tell me your experience with cancer and using RSO to cure yourself?
Yeah,
You don't have to stick anything up your butt right now,
I
but
don't. I don't have a butt to stick up. No, I'm serious. They shut off that exit, the doctors, and so
oh really?
I got a bag, a colostomy bag, because from the cancer I got originally was prostate,
Uh-huh.
and if you haven't had prostate and you do get it, do not get a biopsy.
Uh-huh.
Do not, a biopsy is when they take a chunk of your flesh and they give it to the lab, and the lab looks at things. Oh, you got cancer.
Mhm.
Don't get a biopsy, because
Why not?
in doing so, because the cancer cells are microscopic, and so they spread. When you take a chunk of cancerous whatever, if it's not frozen immediately, it will spread. And that's what happened to me, and that's what happened to a lot of people that
Wow.
got biopsies,
Wow.
and that's how it got bad. The thing to do is listen to your doctor, of course, but when he says biopsy, go no, thank you. You can tell. We've got all the computers and stuff to tell whether you have cancer. So what happened with me, I had prostate cancer, but the doctor, one of the doctors said, it's a slow acting, and you probably die of something else first. That cheery thing they give you. You'll probably be dead before this cancer really acts up. So we're not going to do anything with it. That's originally what they told me, but then with the biopsy, my rectum got infected. And so I had rectal cancer. Now that's a whole different number. That's when they stick the proctologist sticks his finger up there, and he feels the tumor, and he goes, "Yep, you got it." And then I went in for the operation, and luckily I went to two doctors. The first doctor wasn't the best choice, but a friend of mine, a plastic surgeon friend of mine, his office was above it, and so we wanted to find out right away if I had rectal cancer, and so he sent me down there, and the guy did the old-fashioned, finger up the butt, and yes, you got it. Then he started giving me the talk. The talk is, okay, if you got rectal cancer, here's how we're going to get it out of you. And they're going to cut it out, and you got to do this whole rigmarole thing. It's a horrible, horrible thing to do. In fact, most people say, forget it. I ain't going through it. Luckily, or, the changes have been made. We found a doctor that operated with a computer. So there's no cutting open. You go in there with the computer and the camera, and you go in there and they just do a surgical cut, which they did with me. And he was the best doctor. The doctor that gave me the talk, we said thank you, but no thank you. And we went to the specialist, and he cut it out and sewed it up, and I'm cancer free. Now I do have a bag. I do have the colostomy bag, but being a comedian, I immediately named it the Trump.
That's hilarious.
And I was going to put his face on the bags, but then it was too much publicity for Trump and too much for the laugh, I did a few shows, but I never got called back to do any more. but I kind of slipped that bit in there on Canadian television one time. I haven't been back since, by the way. But yeah, it's I got the bag, and once I got the bag, I had another friend whose who is another friend, associate of his, had the bag, and he's still alive. Thing is, when you get that bypass, the colostomy bag, it really does save lives. And there's been kids grow up with the bag all their life, and you're totally fine. I think in some ways you're more protected, because you got no choice to watch what you eat, because you can see it right after, if you want to,
Yeah, see, I saw you on that one video with 2 Chainz, and you were nibbling at those wings. I don't know if they were just because they were too potent or too much fat.
No, they were too spicy. I love wings, man, but I got to watch my diet. We all do. We all do. We got to watch the red meat diet. We got to, and as you get older, you just got to keep moving. You're not necessarily lifting heavy weights, but you gotta use your body. We're like old cars. You got to take them out for a run once in a while. Other than that, the tires will act up. Everything will act up, and our body's the same thing. Just because we're older, and don't feel like doing things, that's one thing. But you got to walk. You got to walk. Luckily, I got this young, gorgeous wife that as I get older, I get more secluded, If you're a comedian like I am, you notice a change in people. Like people will talk about you in front of you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's you're the reason of an argument. Well, I've looked after him long enough. What the hell? Don't we have anybody else we can get him?
It's like, it's not my turn, it's your turn.
Well, I used to do a joke about depends, and say, hey, who's going to change grandpa? Depends.
So Tommy, let me ask you real quick. How long, do you know, how long you've been on the Normal National Advisory Board?
Oh shit, no, I have no idea, man.
It's got to be back in the 70s, something like that.
Easy. Well, when they started, actually, back when they started, because I was I think I hold the record for the guy on High Times magazine. I've been in High Times magazine more than any living human on Earth, and I've always been connected to it. Like they said, we don't want no Cheech and Chong thing. I love
we had
being
Malcolm
described
McKinnon on
like
a couple weeks ago, and he told us about the story behind that picture you took through your I guess it was through a fence.
The gate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was his yeah, that was Malcolm. I I didn't want to talk about jail because I was still going to trial, or there was still some hope that I might not go. But Malcolm kind of knew, and he says, well, this looks like jail bars, so I said okay, so I did it. I did a kind of a half-assed thing, but the truth, defense. Like I never got upset or nothing. I'm a big guy. I understood what the other side, the cops and that are doing. They're protecting their black market. Because there's a lot of DEA guys, that are out of no more second homes and no more yachts and no more boats and all that stuff that cash will buy you if you're a crooked agent, and if you're not, then you're stupid, because here you go, you bust some illegals and you got a duffel bag full of $100 bills. What are you going to do? We better turn this in. You turn it in and they're going to steal it. Who's ever looking after it? It's cash, and so there's a lot of that was the downside of the drug laws, because it turned a lot of decent people into thieves, and that's not good, because life is a test, people. It's a test, and when you get a chance to go that way, if you're smart, you'll walk away, because it's a dead end. Being a criminal, it's not a good future, because you lose everything. And so I've had empathy for a lot of the boots on the ground, those guys, the DEA guys, and that, especially if you see shows like Ozark, where they show that normally straight family getting sucked into the billion-dollar drug business. Well, once we legalize it, that's gone. That's gone. And once we legalize it, and we do away with these draconian kind of tax laws and all that packaging bullshit, that is just putting unnecessary burdens on farmers. Because a guy growing pot, he's a farmer.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, as like we're seriously, like, we're talking to like the OG right now. So like, as like the OG of cannabis, we'll call you that for this question, right? Are you happy with where the movement's gone? Like, you've been there like from the beginning,
Oh,
like,
totally.
is
No, I'm very happy. I'm very,
okay.
very, very happy. Yeah, you have to make allowances,
Mhm.
but come on. CNN, we owe everything to CNN and Dr. Sandra Gupta, because he was the one that showed the little baby being cured
Oh yeah,
with epilepsy. You
yeah,
can't argue that shit. I don't care
that
who you
changed
are.
a lot.
It just say no to a baby that has epilepsy, and now that can hug his mother for the first time. You're gonna put a law against that because the kid might end up a heroin addict. Come on, you know, it's just bullshit, and I'm really happy that we're going down that route. But you know what? This is what I come up with. It's art, fine art, the paintings, the sculptures. When you look at history, the only thing that stands behind that we leave is our art monuments. The buildings, the churches. Forget about what they were worshiping. Look at the architecture. Look at the art. Look at the strides they made with building. Uh, and it was all because of the cannabis. Cannabis opened the minds for people to do that, and that's why in India they still have those sects. That all they do is smoke pot and see God. Their God. And we have to look as a people. We have to look into the past and see how they survived, because we've been surviving pandemics since the beginning of time. And we will have pandemics just like we have war. You see, what we're going through, they're lessons that we have to on Earth. This is why we have a physical universe, is so we can learn.
Hmm.
Because in the spiritual world, there's no want, need, or desire. And by the way, I figured out the spiritual world is the opposite of the physical world. And so in the physical world, there's no end to it. I'm watching a show last night called The Black Hole. And apparently we got quite a few black holes in this universe. And they're bigger, and you can't explain them other than it looks like a drain in a sink, where you pull the plug and everything goes down the drain. That's what it looks like, the universe, how it recycles itself. But the spiritual world is the opposite of that. And so when you got a physical world, which has everything big, everything huge, huge, measuring in how fast light can travel in a year. That's our way of measuring things, and we still can't. There is no end to it. But so, with the opposite of everything is the spiritual world, which is nothing. Isn't that amazing? Like, there's nothing. There's no need, want, desire in the physical world. There's just love. And what love is just being. It's knowledge. You see, in the physical world, we have opposites. You know, you can't have one without the other. You can't have up without down. You can't have right without wrong. That's why when they do the polls and they find out, oh, the 30% or 25 or 30% still believe the election was stolen. Well, yeah, those people will be there, or that number will be there forever, because that's the balance that's ignorance. You need that ignorance in order to have the answer, the intelligence. You need dumb. If you don't have dumb, you don't have intelligence. There's no reason. See, and so that's what we're living in now, and weed. The way marijuana works, it makes you, it puts you in the moment. Now, it doesn't matter what that moment is, but you're in the moment. You could be robbing a bank and you smoke a joint, and all of a sudden, boom, you get a better idea how to do it. You know? And sometimes you might think, this isn't wrong. I shouldn't be doing this shit. You know? And you leave. But weed is a gift from God. And God, if you look at the prayer, the first thing, our Father, everybody's Father, who art in heaven, is not our Father who's on earth watching every move. No, our Father who art in heaven. The next line, hallowed be thy name. So it's the name has power, and so much power that if you honestly keep God on your mind at all times, he will perfect that which concerns you. Now think about that. Whatever you're doing, if your mind is on God, he will perfect that what you're doing. Now, the reason there are crimes and mistakes is that that's how you learn. I don't think anybody learns from success. You don't learn anything. All you learn is that you did it. And they call it lucky. Oh, yeah, well, he's lucky, you know. Elon Musk, well, he was lucky. He discovered the electric car. Or Marconi, he was lucky he discovered the light bulb or whatever. It's not luck. It's divine. It's divine. And we're meant to do that. And that's what humans are. We're workers. We're here to make our life better and to show people that if you're going to make it worse, this is what happens to you. You know what I mean? So you got a choice. You know, you can go, and that's the great thing about the freedoms that we have. We have a freedom to do whatever we feel is necessary for us to learn. And if it makes mistakes, and we will make mistakes, you can be a saint 1 second and then the worst guy on earth the next second. It depends on your choice.
It's that damn free will, isn't it?
I gotta tell you, Tommy, you pointed out that without any dumb, there's no smart, and I just want to point out that's why these guys keep me around, and that's why Suncoast Normal is such a smart organization, is because I'm so dumb. Just to let you know, you cracked the secret.
Yeah, but there's always hope. There's always hope, you know, like teaching someone to swim, you know. They're going to swim or they're going to die, you know, and the human body will figure it out, you know. Oh, okay, if I do this, I'll keep my head above the water, you know, and basically that's what life is all about. We have to learn to do this shit ourselves, and that's what we're doing.
I just want to point out a member of our organization of Suncoast Normal, Jamie Howe, has commented on the program, and she's wanted to point out that CBD oil has cut her husband's blood sugar in half. And she's a very important member of our organization. You got to understand, Jamie's been supporting us for a long time, and she's a very sick woman as well. So I just wanted to point that out to you. I know that you've got your CBD company that you're promoting, and I just wanted to take a moment and let people know about your CBD, and
I love it. When I get asked, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What are you striving for? What do you want? What would you like to see? And I'm being very honest with them. I really want to become the richest man on earth. I really do. I have a shot. And why not? Why not me?
And once you're a better choice than some of these guys that are currently up there. So
obviously, I mean, they spend all that money to go to, all that money to go into space. All they got to do is smoke a joint. Come on.
Tommy's planting trees instead of building spaceships. I like that.
Yeah. Yes. No, you can have your spaceship, but it's just like this war that's going on. It's old fashioned. What we're seeing now is very old fashioned. And it's like, it's like, oh, we're still doing this. Only we're doing it in the daytime. We're doing the light, and there's really no reason for Putin to attack the Ukraine. And someone needs to tell Putin, that long table bit, no, don't use that one. Makes you look too crazy.
You also can't pass a good rotation around with a big table like that.
No, that's what I'm saying.
You have to have a doobie toss.
It's like he's in prison and he's Hannibal Lecter, and no one wants to sit near the guy.
Let me ask you: if you were the richest guy on earth, what would you do with all that money?
Make sure that the people got it. You got to give see. It's like playing Monopoly. You can't play Monopoly, the game, unless everybody has money. Now, once they get money, now it's fun taking it off them, because they're stupid and you're smart, But then once you take it all, then give it all back. Give it back to them. Keep the game going. It's all about. You see, right now, America is falling down in so many ways. They're hoarding money. In fact, now we got a currency. We got the Bitcoin. We got where you don't even need to take it out. You just look at it every once in a while. Look at, that's $500 million there. Ooh, but it's not being used. You see, and used money to a lot of people is clothing, housing, it's living, it's food, it's education. Education. This is what we got to do. We got to get everybody smart. If everybody gets smart in there, we won't eliminate wars totally, but there'll be long periods of peace, where we can evolve. See, the reason we have wars and the reason we're human is for just that, so we can discover stuff for ourselves and we can build, because a lot of inventions were done during wartime out of necessity. It's just like this pandemic. All of a sudden now, oh shit, they got a thing that will cure HIV. And they got something, and they're pretty soon. Oh, they got a guy walking with a spinal cord injury. We can, like, for a while there, people were so afraid of AI, artificial intelligence. Oh, we don't want AI. We don't want people knowing what we're. That's all bullshit. Yes, you want AI. You want AI to tell you what to do, and that's what it's been doing. Look at us. We're talking on a phone. A few years ago, that would never happen. We could never meet the way we're meeting, where we're talking now. Just a few, but it's all done, and that's why we have reasons to. It's like getting dressed up. You don't get dressed up unless you got somewhere to go, And if you got nowhere to go, then why bother? Look at us sitting around, I got sweatpants on. I don't give a shit. I got the same T-shirt on I wore yesterday, and there's no reason to change, but it gives me more time to do what I'm doing now, to explore the mind and to explore how we can better ourselves, because that's the key. You better yourself. Like when you go to a gym, when you take yoga, they always tell you to stay on your towel, stay on your own towel. And what they're saying is that just be concerned with yourself. You see, and this is what we need with our population now. We have to, each of us have to be the best person that we can. And that way, in every which way, like my wife, the most thing I admire her is that she never stops learning. She is always taking an art class, a dance class, some tango class. She's taken everything, and she looks incredible for compared to other ladies her age. Other people her age and that.
So is she the one that got you on Dancing with the Stars?
She is. She's the one. And I'm telling you, man, that was the hardest goddamn thing I've ever done in my life, man.
And mainstream was all
I'm not
heck.
used to moving like that all the time.
Well, Tommy, we were talking earlier before you came on about like how cannabis culture started out as a counterculture, and now you're mainstream. I mean, you're in Disney movies. You're doing cartoon voices. You're on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, did you think? If you just thinking of 30-year-old Tommy and you now, like just thinking, did you ever think that'd be possible?
I've never had that feeling that I was doing anything wrong. When I started smoking weed, I found out that it was good for me. It was really good for me. Now, is illegal? Well, don't forget, I grew up half Chinese, and I just found out that I not too long ago that I got 8% Native in me, and so with the name Chong and I'm what you call the other. So I've always been put in that category all my life, from the teachers to the playmates, and I don't know. I wrote in my book one time. Being having people being prejudiced against you, you don't really notice it that much when you're older, but you really notice it when you're a kid, and you get nailed for being having some kind of deformity or something like that. You get put in that special. In fact, we had a class in school called the special class. And it was for people that were a bit retarded or have mental issues or, something going on.
I was actually put in that special class for my first 2 weeks of public school because they didn't realize I had test scores. So they discovered after 2 weeks in the special class, something's wrong with this kid. He's smart. So I went from special to gifted. I never got to go to regular classes.
Yeah. You never got to the regular. Yeah. Well. That's what when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was a neighborhood thing. And we lived in a neighborhood. It was a wartime housing, and we, if we wanted to, we could share the backyard. Would be everybody's lawn would make a park, Except when we moved in, when my dad, who was in the Second World War, got his house. It wasn't one of the first, but one of the last. As soon as we moved in, the neighbors put up fences. Just to keep those brown kids out of their yard. And then they had a party for this young girl, and they explicitly uninvited me. They told me that you're not invited to this party because, the father doesn't want you around his daughter, that kind of thing, And I was 11 years old. And I sat up in my room I could see the bonfire and the party going on, and I sat there, and I didn't feel sad as much as I felt, because I was never invited in that crowd to begin with, But what I did, I contemplated the fact that these people, that's how small-minded they are. They don't realize the gifts that I could have shared with them, that I had, and now that I am, world renowned, famous in that, the same people would never admit that happened. In fact, it would be the other way. It would be, oh yeah, he went to school with my daughter, but because I'm famous, I get a pass or something. But I know the feeling. And then I was in Army Cadets in Canada, Calgary. And I found out just recently, you don't realize people are prejudiced until you learn. You have to learn about that. And you say, oh, that's why, people treated me different. No, yeah, I get it, And that's why my first wife was black, because it was a black crowd or yeah, that took me in. They open arms, because I could dance. That's where I learned how to dance, and the music. I learned the music, The only thing I never did do when I was with the black people was talk, because they were so quick. They were always, telling the joke or the story or anything else. I never said a word. I just listened, and when I became a comedian, that really shocked the Motown crowd. Tommy talking? Is that Tommy?
So now you let us know that not everybody in Canada is polite. That absolutely shocks me. And I grew up hanging out on Yonge Street too, and they were always polite to me, at least. But I guess I fit into the crowd at that point in time.
Yeah. Well, Tommy, I identify with your story, man. I mean, growing up half Cuban, I was always, but I didn't speak Spanish. So I was always, too Cuban for the white kids and didn't speak Spanish. I couldn't hang out with Spanish kids. So a lot of my friends ended up being black as well, because they were, as far as being oppressed, that's one group of people who when they see that, hey, come on in. We know what it feels like.
Yeah. I mean, to the point where life and death. I remember when I was in the band, it was all black band except for me, and we stopped at we never had hotels back in the day. We slept in the car, we kept driving to the gig, and then we'd maybe nap at the gig. But we stopped at this one service station, and the guy was in an argument with his long-haired hippie, and it, I don't know, it just something that he said, or it cracked me up, and I started laughing. And then the service station guy looked at me and said, what are you laughing at, motherfucker? And being Canadian, I right away I took a step back from the guy so he couldn't hit me by surprise, and I was ready to lay into him if I had to. But Freddie, the drummer, black drummer, he grabbed my arm and he just took me outside. And as he took me outside, he whispered in my ear, he says, he's got a gun. I said, okay. And so we got gas at the next station. We never got it there. But, it's just a way of life. There's nothing else you could describe it, In Canada, you could see Canadians. It was you settled things. You had fist fights. That's how you settled shit, And that's how my brother, that's what he got respect, because they called him a chinky Chinaman, something like that. There, they would get through the first verse, okay, and the second verse it would be interrupted with a fist in the mouth, And my brother, he was one of the toughest guys in Calgary. In fact, he kind of made, the wall of fame for tough guys. My brother used to play industrial league hockey, and whenever they played the natives up in Canmore, if a fight broke out, the referees would go home.
That's a hockey match.
Yeah, because the natives would use the sticks as clubs, and the white guys would use whatever they had, to fight. I mean, that's the way it was. Canada was full of like guys with hockey mentality, the tough as nails. My brother was tough as nails. In fact, one time I was in the south of France, and I was in a pool, and there's a bunch of people in a hot tub, and all of a sudden, a friend of mine, he come over. There's a guy from Canada wants to meet you. And so I went over and I met him, and he says he's a doctor from Deep Cove. This is where my brother lived. He said, your brother came to me one day. He had his fist. He had soreness in his fist, and he couldn't figure out what it was, why his fist was so sore. So they give him an X-ray, and they found teeth fragments embedded in his knuckles.
Wow.
And once they took the teeth fragments out, he was fine.
That's amazing.
My brother, he was the guy. One time I had a wart in the middle of my hand. And we lived in the country, so there's no doctors or nurses or anything. I went to school. There's no school nurses, nothing. You got sick, they sent your ass home. And so my brother looks at the wart, and he really grabbed it and bit it off. I got scars all over my body. I got a scar here on my finger. I was lucky. He says, you put your finger there, I'll chop it off. It went down this way instead of this way. It went the lengthways. I was lucky. And it was a Ukrainian woman that fixed it, because there's no doctors there. We're in Saskatchewan. And she put a sort of a makeshift native thing, with the right herbs and stuff and everything else. And there's hardly any scar. It was perfect. And I got a scar here where when we see a movie with sword fighting, we come home and make swords out of sticks. And I got a stab wound here where my brother stabbed
Tommy,
me.
I need you to at least humor me, at least give me an empty promise that if you're ever in the Tampa Bay area, right, we just need to get high together.
Oh, no problem.
Yo, that'd be so cool, because I have to admit, I took an edible before the show started and it's kicked in.
Oh.
And getting high and talking to you is everything I thought it would be.
That's a compliment, I guess.
Well, Tommy, you're actually one of the few people on my bucket list. I was like, okay, there's like 5 people I want to smoke with in my life, and it's like Afro Man, Snoop Dogg, Willie Nelson, a president, and Tommy Chong. So
yeah, I love that.
I'm going to spark this one up, and I'm going to check this off my bucket list.
And I understand that John Lennon would not smoke with you at one point in time. That's a shame. That's something he really lost out on. But I would take you up on that. John Lennon.
Oh, yeah. John said no. He's got immigration problems.
Yeah,
but it was so neat meeting him at that. What happened that time with him? It was very cool. George was the best. So George, he was a guitar player and what a cool guy. Oh my God. And all the Beatles, they were humble because of the music. Music will make you humble, and if you're really good, then you get more humble because you want to come on like a jerk, but all the Beatles, man, they were so cool. Paul's the only guy I haven't smoked with, and the word's out, and Paul knows it, and Paul says, hey, I'm ready whenever you are. Whenever we get together, we're going to toke it up.
Absolutely. Tommy, you've got to come back on our show. We have so much more we want to ask you.
Okay.
I mean, my wife, who lost her eyesight to glaucoma, she always said she never got a chance to see Up and Smoke, but she saw Quest for Fire, and was that good enough? And I said, not really. It's only in the family. But she said that
Quest was incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible. I love that movie. She did an absolutely wonderful job. But she said, look, if you could get him and Mr. Marin to come over and do a skit for me so that I could just hear the whole thing, I would just love it. And I told her I would ask at least, can't guarantee it. But
problem. Love to do it.
But
You
if
know,
you want to come back and bring the guy from East LA, we're good with that too.
yeah, I had a lot of blind friends, like what's his name, Jose
Blind Melon Chitlin.
Feliciano. Jose Feliciano.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had a after hours club in Vancouver where the Vancouvers got discovered. Well, Jose would be booked into a folk club downtown, and he would do the gig, and then he would rush over to our club and play all night. He'd sit there and play all night, and so I got to know Jose really well, really well.
You had an act where you played a blind guy.
Blind Melon Chitlin.
Yeah. I got that bit from my brother-in-law, the one that quit our band when Bobby Taylor took over. Floyd Sneed. In fact, he's in L.A. now. He's got a little bit of a problem, and he's in an assisted living home now. But Floyd was one of the funniest guys I ever met. He was the younger brother of my first wife. And so I've known Floyd since he was about, I guess, 11 years old, something like that. I watched him grow up. In fact, I gave him his first job as a drummer. And he ended up being the drummer for Three Dog Night. And he's world known all over the world. Well, he would tell me about how his uncles would talk to each other on the phone. And they would go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. And so I did that with Blind Melon Chitlin. You got the biggest laugh. Oh yeah, blind. Oh yeah. I still laugh when I hear that. But what do you call it? The woke cops, or what do you call it? The cultural
the PC police. Yeah.
Well, they saw me doing a blackface Blind Melon Chitlin in a movie called Still Smoking. In fact, I think they took Still Smoking off the thing, where they're playing it because of that. But
I watched it on streaming a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, I'm not. No, I figured the blackface wasn't an insult to people. It was a survival thing, because black people were not allowed to do things at the penalty of death. That's why a lot of them got lynched. It wasn't because they did anything terribly wrong. No, it was just because they were black, and the white idiots were there to look for an excuse to hurt them. And so the blackface, it allowed black people to perform, because you couldn't tell with people with the makeup on. You couldn't tell if they were white or black. If everybody, so it was like a survival thing. It sure wasn't an insult, And like you talked to Al Jolson, when the first guy that mammy, well, everybody had a mammy. Mammies raised a lot of families. My ex-wife's mother, she lived to be 100, and when she died, her white family that she raised just by being the housekeeper, they were in attendance at her funeral, because she was much a part of their family as their mom and dad. In fact, there's a lot of white Southerners that were raised by black ladies that went on to become greatness because of the advice and the wisdom that they got from their black ladies, looking after them, their nannies and their housekeepers and all that. And just like we're doing now in LA with the Spanish, we have a Spanish housekeeper, and she's definitely part of the family. And so we're you can't survive in California without some kind of Spanish Mexican connection, because everything, all the workers and everything is run by the Spanish or the Mexicans here, or the Chicanos, whatever you call them. So that the blackface. In fact, I would not right away, but I'm going to do a show about it and highlight the fact that the performers that played blackface, they were very brave and very groundbreaking. Just like the black musicians that were the descendants from the French. The French were the only race back in the day that treated their black offspring, their half children, humanely. And then what the French would do, they would send their black children, their mixed kids, back to France to learn how to read music and so on. And so there's a lot of educated musicians, and it was against the law for them to know how to read, and so they would fake it. They would memorize huge classical pieces that's almost impossible to do without a sheet of music, but they had to do it under threat of death, because if anybody found out that they could read, they were subjected to being murdered, to being killed, because the last thing they want is an educated slave population. And so there's a lot of things going on, that we miss it. We miss the big picture, because we're looking at the most obvious, but we're coming around. And I'll tell you, the weed. And by the way, I believe it was the slaves that brought the weed to America. Why not? They had it in their land forever, and why not? You bring some seeds, boom, you got a thriving crop. And then when the hemp thing hit in America, that was more popular than it was the oil of the day to have hemp, because you have rope and you have canvas and all that good stuff.
I recall doing research for my master's degree, and was writing it on cannabis prohibition. And at one point, Thomas Jefferson had to use hemp to buy weapons for the Continental Congress, because they weren't going to take U.S. dollars, because America was a new country. The money was worthless. So, like, you want these guns, you're going to have to give me 2,000 pounds of weed.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Makes so much sense.
Yes, Thomas Jefferson sold 2,000 pounds of weed to buy guns for the Continental Army, but they're not going to teach you that, because they're afraid of critical race theory.
Well, you know what? We have to ignore those people. That's all you got to do. When you come across ignorance, when you come across an ignorant people, this is Cheech's thing. When you come across an idiot, change idiots. That's Cheech's
Here's
line.
my thing. Like Cheech's thing, changing idiots, that was my stance a little while ago. Now I'm tired, man. Now there's a lot of idiots in this world.
But we got to educate
them.
To the most part. Educate them or distract them. It's easy to distract people, That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about. I got a plan. Do we have time?
Yeah, Tommy. Hey, we got as much time as you want to take, Tommy.
Okay, I got a plan. I got a plan how to deal with the homeless, and my plan is to hire them as movie extras, actors, whatever their talent is. But they would make, if they can do nothing else, they would make great movie extras. Because an extra, just you get told, you stand here, wear this, do that, and it's very simple. So my plan is to, and I had a talk, by the way, with a lady that worked in the legal department at City Hall, and she listened to my plan, and she didn't knock it in any way. She gave me that sort of like, wow, that could work. Now, my plan is this for the homeless is to, because we have cameras everywhere, so we could designate any place in the city as a movie set, a movie permit. We're shooting a movie here. So the neighborhood now belongs to the movie company. Now, it's not going to change anything without anybody's permission, absolutely. Now, and what I want to do with the homeless is search the homeless camp for the actors, for the for the creative people, for anybody that has any ambition to make more of their lives than what they're doing. And also to use their homeless encampment as a movie set. So when you're finished shooting their movie, the movie with them, because the movie is really going to be about how we've rehabilitated these people on the street. We've given them more than they need in order to, but we're also giving them a job with money. And by the way, they're all going to be in unions. There's an extras union, there's an actors union, there's the camera union, there's all unions. And unions are great because they keep track of their members. You have to really be alive and so on in order to collect the checks and the goodies. And so we would have a way of finding out who is on this particular street, and then finding ways to move them off the street into decent housing, living areas, and rehab centers. Because that's a big thing that we need in America. We need more rehab facilities. But and that's another thing, because I did a little talk with a cannabis rehab. They're using cannabis as a rehab tool. They're using the 12-step program, but they added a 13, which is do it all with cannabis.
I approve that rehab.
And it's working. It's working. And so I want to help, when I do this, I'm going to do this incognito, by the way. I'm not going to be fronting any of this, but I'm going to get it done, because the whole thing is getting control of your city. You can do it more with the movie company than you can with any kind of policing or politicians or any kind of bullshit like that, because the movie company is not there forever. They're just there long enough to do the movie, then they move on. But what they do, they can leave the sets that they build behind. And that set, instead of being a set that they're going to tear down and rebuild another one, these sets can be permanent. So we can have permanent low cost housing, and not just, something that looked like something out of a communist country, but a village where it's designed by artists. Movie artists are the best in the world. And so when you build a castle, that castle stays. When you build whatever it is, it stays, and it stays for the people. And that's, you see, the reason we have such a homeless population in California is because of the weather. And so what we need is low rent, easy to deal with campgrounds. Of course, every campground has to have rules. We have to have that. We're civilized. That's what civilization means. To be civilized means that you have certain rules. You just can't shit in the street if you feel like you got to shit. You got to go to a place where that's taken care of. And right now, the homeless in LA, they ignore all those rules. I've seen people I've seen a woman just lift up her skirt and squat and dropped a big log in the middle of the street and then kept on walking.
Yeah, poverty is bad. I mean, I've seen it in New York. I've seen it in Dominican Republic. Anywhere you go where there's major poverty, I was in Dominican Republic with my wife's family over the holidays, and my father-in-law asked me, what do you think of our country? And I said, well, I think you need less police and more garbage men.
Yeah.
and I look around here, and it feels like we need the same thing in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And Tommy, I love your idea of the homeless. I work for a labor union outside of my advocacy with Normal, and bargaining for the common good is a new 21st century labor practice where unions can go in and bargain for things to help the community, because what we understand is workers are a community. And
Yes.
have you brought this to the Screen Actors Guild or the studios in a formal proposal?
No, not yet.
Because I would love to see the next time they go to negotiate a SAG contract that, that's put into there that so many people have to be homeless and the set should be built and left behind, for the community. That is an amazing idea. Yeah. And I call on those unions to do that. If that makes absolute sense and can really better that, man. I never thought in a million years getting a chance to talk to you, as a celebrity, but you're the real squirrel master, man. You got some real insights, and
no kidding. See, here the trick is money. That's why I want to become the wealthiest guy, because you talk to unions, everything else. It's all about money. You need to pay the unions to take care of themselves. You got to pay everybody, and so that's what I see a budget going. Instead of sending some billionaire into space for 6 minutes, use that money to spread around to pay. Yeah, I would love to pay people to be extras. You're being paid. You get a check every month or every 2 weeks or whatever. You get an actual paycheck with deductions, and those deductions are for union dues and for your health benefits, for schools, whatever the fuck it is, and we do that. And that's why the first movies that I'm going to be doing is going to be building these structures and that. I got another idea for low rent housing, because a lot of I notice, I've been doing my homework, and a lot of the homeless are what they are. They're like campers, and they're exhibitionists. They're campers that like to be seen, and so they're perfect movie fodder. They want to be seen anyway. They want to be photographed. They want to be noticed, and that's a human trait, that we all want to do it. And that's why people act up bad. That's why your kid will act bad, because for attention. See, and that's why Donald Trump, that explains Donald Trump, he never had it when he was a kid, and so he's taking it when he's an adult, and it's so understandable. But what we have to do, we have the wherewithal to do it. That's what I'm saying about the movie company. And with the only difference, what I'm going to do, and I'm telling you guys because you're interested in this. See, once I take it to the money people, they're going to, first of all, what I'm going to do is get a budget. See, that's the first thing you need in any movie is the budget. That's the most thing. The idea of what it's going to be, forget that. The budget. When they shot Cleopatra or the Ten Commandments in Egypt, they hired the Egyptian army to be extras. That's how powerful a movie company can do what they can do. Elizabeth Taylor, by the way, she got a big ass diamond. That was her page. She didn't want money. She wanted a big ass diamond. And because she's had so much money at that time anyway. So what we do with movies, instead of striking the set and forgetting about them, or like in Universal, you go back there, the sets are rotting. They're not being used because they're just fronts, you see. But what we can do with the right, we can do with the right architect, with the right, like Frank Gehry, for instance. He's a very good friend of mine, and I asked him about the homeless situation, and he told me, he says, we've always had homeless, in the Middle East they call them Bedouins. They're called gypsies in France. They're called different things around the country. And what France does to help their homeless, the gypsies, they pay them to leave. They do. You're allowed to be in the south of France for the summer, but after the summer is over, we pay you to leave. And so they have this circuit where they travel around, and they get paid to leave. And they get, in other words, they're traveling with their horse and buggy or their trailers or whatever they are. And when they come into a neighborhood, yeah, there's some theft going on, but gives cops works. And there's some, but there's more like small goods, they'll make repair pots and pans, and they do all sorts of clean up neighborhood stuff. And like I knew gypsies when I was in prison. So what we do with the movie, see, we got control. Now we got something that's not going to go on forever. It's going to stop. And that's what people with their lives, you can't live on the street forever, dude, Okay, for a little while, fine, but not forever, because you got to join the rest of the humanity, in one way or another. If you're a traveler, then keep traveling. But if you're going to stay around, then make your roots and obey our laws that we have. And we do that. See, that's my job. That was because I'm very close to God. I'm very close to God. I know there's a God. I just look at my wife and I realize not only there's a God, but he likes me. he really likes me.
Tommy, there are a lot of people out in the world that love you. As a comedian, you told hard truths, and for some people, you mentioned the PC police. They might take an excerpt out of this and not understand the entire context. But you're someone who people look at it, they try to put into a category of counterculture, but they don't realize you, like you just said, you grew up with prejudice facing you and having an immigrant father. You raised a black daughter during the civil rights era. You toured with Motown, where Jackson 5 was your opening act. You've seen so much of history and been a part of it. And so people got to take that and understand that a lot of the commentary that you have is so insightful. And you were just talking about affordable housing and people settling down roots, wanting to be part of things. That's the biggest thing facing our generation now is you got all these big corporations buying up the houses. There's no place for young families to settle down. The taxes are bopping you over the head if you don't have kids. So it's even harder to be in the middle class because they're trying to tax you out of it. They're taxing the bud out of price for most people. Most people can't afford to spend $70 on the eighth for their medicine here in Florida. And that's why so many people still don't have medical cards. They're still operating in the black market. They're still getting arrested, and it's still contributing to this police state, where only certain people who can afford it can have legal weed, and everybody else still goes to jail.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I got some grow tents. They're Tommy Chong grow tents, and I got to get them out in the light more. And I got them growing in my son's. We got five indica babies. They're about yay high, and the grow tent. I'm looking at the grow tent, and I said, you know what? These could, all you need is electricity and a nice environment, so it doesn't get blown away. But yeah, we're going to solve. I used to say that when they legalize weed, your grandmother will grow more weed than you'll ever use in your lifetime, and that's Oregon. Almost happening. That is almost happening because you take the people that have been growing forever, they don't talk about it, but they've always got the best bud wherever you go,
Well, we're hoping you bring MKX to Florida because we could sure use a better brand than what we got right now. No offense to the NMTCs out there right now, but boof. I'm just saying.
Well. What I want to bring is the love. What I found out is the weed really separates. You know how we used to clean the weed. We have the stems and seeds. That was
why they invented double albums.
Yeah. You just shoved them aside. And the thing is about the weed, it's like a pig. Every bit of the weed can be used good. You see what happened in Seattle
For real.
for a while? They were using the stems and seeds and that as pig feed. And then the FDA shut them down because they thought that the pigs were getting high off the stalks of the wheat, the
Well,
CBD. It just shows you how dumb these people are.
Tommy, you mentioned that actually was a case here in Florida. A friend of ours in our chapter, he was beating back stage 4 cancer, and he was juicing the entire plant. He was taking it raw, and he beat his cancer with it.
Yeah.
And he sued the state because the Constitution's amendment says we should have access to the entire plant, but the legislators wrote it to where only the MMTCs can touch the plant. So they don't even sell his plants. We don't have a right to grow. So he has to break the law still, even as a legal patient, to keep himself healthy. And that's the ludicrous part of. That's why we're still fighting, because the war's not over yet.
Oh no. Death will end a lot of people's ignorance, and that's it. So what we have to do is just do what we're doing. I found with me is lead by example, and that's all we can do. You're going to get the dummy. Hey, I I hang out with some of the richest Trumpies on the land. And even though all this, the insurrection, everything else, they still are, he's better than that Biden guy. They're just still brain dead. And so what we got to do is just be happy. Nothing pisses people out more than a bunch of long-haired guys laughing their ass off at something.
This is true.
I mean, that's what we got to do. There used to be a thing called living well is the best revenge. I remember Lou Adler had it on his Roxy car on the matches. Living well is the best revenge, and I thought that's kind of stupid. Living well, how is that revenge? Revenge is something God said only He can do it. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. So living well is the best way to be, period. Should all be living well, and helping others live well. That's what we got to do. Because the more you help others, well, look at me. Had I not said to Bobby Taylor, well, why don't you play drum? Well, then come on up. You're hired. If I had said, oh, no, we need a drummer, but I'm loose. I'm ready to embrace everything and everybody. You got an idea? Come on. I want to hear it. You never know.
Yeah, my idea right now is consumption lounges. We got to have them all over the country right now. Get rid of the bars. I mean, if you put a consumption lounge in an airport, I don't think you'll have as many unruly passengers. What do you think?
Well, for sure. But we already have. We have the what do you call it? The vape pen. We can vape. We can do. See, we can't go back. You can't go back. You can't say, okay, let's open a movie theater. And this time we'll have, what do you call it, seating? What do you call it? The distant seating or whatever. No. The movie. Figure it out. The movie theater, it's done. They're going to shrink. There's going to be a few nostalgic kind of movie theaters, right? Because everybody in their house has got a TV room. And if you don't have one, you got a friend that has one.
Yeah. Only movies I like to go to are the ones that have like those big couches and they serve you food and steak. Like because I could do this at home or I could go out and do it, but I'm never going back to those narrow seats that you can barely fit in.
That's what I'm saying. We're never going to go back. We're always going to go forward, and that's what going forward is. I see. That's what I see. The young people, you got to listen to them. No one ever does. Hardly ever does, because one of the things when you get older, you think, well, those youngsters, they don't know what the hell they're doing. You want to have fun. Watch Elvis's There's a documentary on early Elvis Presley. I'm watching that, and Elvis used to tour. He had a car. No, he never toured. His car toured for him. And he had this special car made in the 60s. And guess what? It had its own telephone, big ass phone. It had no TV screen, but it had all these so-called state-of-the-art stuff. A big ass Lincoln gas guzzler, probably got about 12 miles to the gallon, if that. And that's what went on tour. Elvis was not only of the times, but Elvis was a cool guy, because he toward the end of his life, he got into metaphysics. He got into Joel Goldsmith, which is a very that's what changed my life. That the book itself. If you get a chance, check him out. Joel S. Goldsmith. He's online. He's a book. He tells you all about where we're living now. He's a Jew, or he was.
Oh, we lost the sound.
Oh,
Hey Tommy, you went on mute, or your sound's not coming in.
oh, yeah, we
Is it
can't
us?
hear you.
Tommy, I think we lost your
Yeah.
audio, brother.
It actually looks like his internet's bad.
Oh, okay. See, even in the modern
I bet-
era, the
I bet
internet
we're
goes
hearing
in and
something
out.
good too.
Yeah, the Tommy's in the zone right now.
Tommy, we're going to try to read your lips.
I don't think you hear us either.
Can you send him a message? Let me send him a chat. Let's see if the chat pops up for him. Probably not. He's on his iPhone, so he wouldn't see it.
He's still going. Look at him
He's
go.
in his zone, man. We're missing.
Yeah.
This is gold right here. Oh man, the American people should hear this. Everybody should hear this. This is a message for the world. That this is the powers that be.
Oh man, I don't know. Like, I kind of
you-
want to see like how long he can go.
You got
Hey,
mark
shoot him! No, shoot a text to his manager.
Oh.
Let him know the sound went out.
It looks like he's saying something really funny right now too.
Oh man, you're killing me, Smalls.
Oh my God.
The sound went out, Tommy. So we lost you on your sound. Not sure if a cord came on there.
I think he's waving goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you're back. Hey, we lost you on the sound there. I was like, oh no. But
What
you're back.
happened? I wonder. Yeah,
Man,
I have to go. That was my cue.
That's awesome. Well, Tommy, we love you, man. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, and just thank you for your commentary. I mean, you're a wealth of knowledge, and I just wish we had more time together.
Well, let's do it again. Whenever you feel like it, I'm available.
Awesome.
Sounds awesome, man. Thank you so
Fantastic.
much
Okay.
for doing this.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right.
Well, before we end the broadcast, Carlos, go ahead and show them how they can get involved in Suncoast Normal and our mission to legalize it.
All right.
Now he's gone. His manager said he's running a little over.
Hey, it's Tommy Chong. He can have as much time as he wants.
you keep it going. You keep it going. Yeah, and I think like we should just take a moment since it's long. Like we should
Yes.
chill while we're doing this portion still.
Yes.
You know, and yeah, like I mean, we solved the homelessness issue.
Yeah.
We solved a lot of different things there.
Hey,
Just with
Carlos,
like,
I have to
just,
ask you. I have to ask you, Carlos. As an atheist, did Tommy make you a believer today?
I mean, I'm still not a believer.
Because he was going hard, man. He was going hard.
He said some awesome stuff that
He's
didn't
very
have to
insightful.
do with
Yeah,
church.
it was-
See, you don't have to believe in God. You have to have Him believe in you. That's what I always say.
Whatever, Gary.
Because if He doesn't believe in you, you don't exist anymore.
You know, I'll just
Doesn't that make sense?
keep not wasting my time.
All right.
Anyways, we had to end the show like this.
You don't have to go to church,
Yeah.
but if you feel as though prayer is a waste of time, that's
Let's just
understandable.
point
Everybody
out
has
a
their own
lot of
beliefs.
things that
Now-
that Tommy pointed out, and I think one thing that I'm going to take away from what he said was that you got to be happy. Being
Yes.
happy is going to be the best way to stick it to the people that are pissed at you.
The haters.
If you're
the
the one that's
crabs.
upset, then they're the one that's happy. So
Yeah, if you smile at a Nazi, he will beat you up.
yeah,
But that's okay because you've made him mad.
yeah. So on that note,
Absolutely.
how can you get involved with Suncoast Normal, Gary?
Well, you could go to suncoastnormal.org and go ahead and put down $25 and be a member of this fantastic organization that has brought in, like, for instance, Tommy Chong here to speak to us today. But we're also working on legislation. We still got legislation working in Tallahassee as we speak. Now on the floor, we may be getting some floor amendments that'll get through some of those things that they could not put on a damn committee. And we are still fighting for you every single day. And it's not going to end. And we want you with us.
I was going to show off from the other guests that you got on the show.
Go ahead.
Nikki Freed.
Yep.
Bruce and Malcolm and all those people. Right? Anyways, you get this pin.
Yeah, you get this pin.
And a membership card. And of
Which
course,
looks like a maple leaf, but it's not.
Yeah. And Carlos, you're 25% discount for our members at Chillum.
Yes, over at Chillum Glass Gallery and CBD Dispensary in Ybor City.
That's right.
And you can download the audio for this show on Pandora, SoundCloud, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iTunes. Or you can always watch us live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and on our website, suncoastnormal.org/watch live.
Para la mejor de mota, va a la Chillum.
I'm not even gonna translate it. Like,
that's why I said it.
I honestly, I'm not gonna translate it because I didn't understand it.
Gary said, "For the best weed, come down to Chillum." In Spanish.
And on that note, we're going to end the show.
No, we're not going to end the show on that note. No, we are not. Absolutely. We're not ending the Tommy Chong show on Gary telling you to come to Chillum for the best weed in Spanish. I refuse to let history be written as such, Carlos.
All right.
No, we haven't had Lotto Tessian for a while, so I figured I had to sneak that in.
No, I just think, again, this was a great show. Just to see Tommy on and gain his insights. The man's lived, like I said, he's seen, the whole back half of the 20th century. He's seen, so much into this one. He's lived a really interesting life. And just to, there's a saying in Africa that when an old person passes away, it's like a library burning down. And I think that, it's important for the community to really take the time and talk to your elders and, people like Tommy who have been around so much, but also people like your own grandmother, your own grandfather. I lost my grandmother in early 2020, and it's just it was tough to realize that you can't go back and always talk to people and get that history and get that firsthand knowledge. Carlos, we were talking the other day about your own pop's experience in Cuba, and like that is he's a wealth of knowledge. And me not having my dad anymore, man, even when he lost the ability to talk, and I was having to treat him, get him RSO, get him his meds, like that in itself, there are so many things like you're blessed, man. Like, whether you want to believe in a higher power or not, like Tommy said, if there is a God, he does like you. You have both your parents. They are a wealth of knowledge and experience. And I just, I know they're proud of everything that you're doing. And
watching right now.
Yeah. And I hope, whether or not there is an afterlife, it's a good thought to think my dad would be watching too, because Tommy's comedy is something that, as an adult, I found something in common with my dad. And we had some of our best laughs sitting there on the couch, watching Up in Smoke, watching Still Smoking, watching Nice Dreams. And I think that's something that we don't appreciate enough in life is the good times with people and the little things. And Tommy put that in perspective today. Like here's a dude he didn't have to do what he did and be a part of this. But he did. He gave that joy to us. And even from a human point of view, I mean, he shared. He's got his own health issues. He didn't have to give us an hour and a half, 2 hours of his time today. So really, am thankful for that, and thankful for what he's contributed to our culture. So, and I think that's important for us as an organization is that we keep our cannabis culture alive, that we keep it vibrant, and that we also make sure that as this industry develops, that we also keep it honest, for people and for patients. And for that reason, we're going to be putting on a Tampa Bay Cannabis Business Expo Saturday, April 23rd. And this expo is not just about showcasing MMTCs or having doctors' clinics, be able to write your recommendation. We really want to show the diversity in the cannabis industry among organizations, among business models, how you can be a part of this industry. And we also invite the sponsors and those vendors to come out. If you're, we also want to have a job fair. So that way, if you're looking to get into the industry, come ready to interview. We're offering, for any of our sponsors, the interview space. We really want to bring the community together, show patients, how they can also continue to find their voice in this movement. Among the different advocacy organizations, we're going to have veterans organizations out there, and as I said, numerous small businesses as well in the industry that'll be out there at the expo showcasing. Carlos Chillum is actually signed on to be a sponsor of the expo. So I know y'all have a opportunity to be out there and tell you. Are you still hiring over there? I know last I saw you had an ad on the internet.
We're gonna hire in about like a month. We're gonna start looking for people.
Exactly. So at the expo,
this is a pretty good opportunity to hire somebody at Chillum at the expo.
So bring your resume, come prepared.
I know we're going to have our assistant manager out there, so we can get some interviews going.
And just so you know, one of the bills that I wrote, it was just filed as an amendment by Senator Brandis to go on the Department of Health bill in regards to retention of licenses.
Okay,
we are still moving this thing forward.
Well, I think that's important as cannabis legislation.
Right, sometimes I don't understand the political talk, and I screw it up and I dance.
Well, Carlos, one of the things,
a good thing, right?
Yeah, one of the things that Gary's touching on right now with this amendment to this bill is that in Florida, we've had so many MMTCs come along that have only existed on paper. They've never once put plants in the ground. Oftentimes, pieces of paper for an MMTC license in Florida have flipped for several million to $50 million to, in many cases. And there's new deals coming all the time that are in the pipeline here. And it is important that if you have a license, an MMT license, Florida, that you do your purpose in providing medicine to sick patients. If you don't get plants in the ground after a certain period of time, you should lose that license. Yeah. It is ludicrous to think that how many are still out there, Gary? 4, 5 that are not growing plants right now.
On a
and
personal
even more because
note,
now we have this thing where they're merging different companies and spitting out the license, and so you have another person who has gone from a full scaled operation down to nothing and not producing anything yet.
So rather than providing medicine, we have MMTCs that are just making stock moves and making billions, but not doing anything for the patients.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I still can't grow anything.
And we still can't grow.
And I still can't grow anything.
That is ludicrous.
And I'm still over here selling pipes and hemp. And
we don't have a free market here in Florida.
Like that's Dr. Block said that. Like the reason Delta 8, Delta 10, Delta P, all these different designer cannabinoids from the hemp plant are becoming popular is because there's prohibition, because there's no access. People don't have the right to grow good stuff.
I can tell you from a social aspect, from a shop owner, right? We're all people that just want to own dispensaries. Seriously, like suppose all the shows meeting each other. We're all people who just want to open up. We open up these shops because we want to own dispensaries.
Yeah. And you're doing it the right way. I mean, you're right there in Ybor City. You're a valued member of that business community. I mean, you've done so much here for Suncoast Normal. In our work for the patients nonprofits. You've hosted other advocacy organizations there, veterans organizations. So I mean, you're showing how it should be done, and you are not the type of person that's getting a license.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that, Carlos?
Just makes me angry.
Well, but tell the viewers why you can't get a license in Florida.
Because I don't have the money.
And
I don't honestly. It's two things. It's I don't have the money and I don't have the political in.
Yeah, so you got to own politics.
There are plenty of people that have applied for this license and had the money to do it, and just did not have the right in politically. And just have not received the license.
And Representative Learned just posted 2 amendments to the House version of DOH, one of which is to make certain that nobody under 21 buys hemp products. But the other one is...
it's okay.
And the other one is telehealth.
Nobody can go in there to buy tobacco products, right? Yeah. That's 21.
We're like somebody was in here like that. Like I checked an ID the other day, and I was like, so you can buy like CBD, like he was just like between 18 and 21. I was like, you can buy CBD or you can get out. Like, what do you want? There's
nothing else that you can sell.
I'm so sorry. Like, but it's like, yeah, like this is just dumb. But yeah, it's okay.
Well, Gary, what's the Second Amendment there? Don't leave us with bad news.
No, the second one was telehealth.
Telehealth.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Now he's actually just filed 3 more.
Is telehealth is in regards to you get your renewal via telehealth? You don't have to go in.
Yeah, and he also just filed a bill that gets rid of deadbeat licenses that don't produce.
Okay, so that's been filed in both chambers, so that's probably going to move. Okay.
Absolutely, and to get back to here.
Is there any patient-centric legislation like not being kicked off the organ transplant list or expanding qualifying conditions that these guys can sponsor?
Did he say telehealth?
The next one makes it so you only have to pay for your card every 2 years, and it extends the amount of time in between times you have to go ahead and actually see the doctor. So that'll reduce the actual cost of having a medical card by about 60%.
Yeah, how about we not have veterans have to pay for their cards and not have to have people on disability have to pay for their cards? Why are the politicians not passing good legislation like that? I mean, did we literally just waste 3 months up in the state legislature in Tallahassee arguing over tax breaks for rich people, not allowing kids to learn about racism and sexuality? Because that's how it feels.
And the next one is increased testing to make certain that products are safe and properly potent.
Oh, so that actually passed? Is that going somewhere? Where's that?
That's another amendment that he put in yesterday. Okay. Anna Maria Rodriguez put it in the Senate bill, but she withdrew it.
So truth and potency testing, is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so truth and testing, that's a patient-centric thing. I think that's important. So, Carlos, you have to have tests for all that stuff you got up in the shop, right?
I mean, it doesn't. It's quite easy. Like I only sell products that already get their products tested. Yeah. I mean, everything really just falls on the manufacturer. It's pretty easy. It's no big deal. It's actually like when all these like testing laws actually pass.
Whoa.
Oh, you got something off the press, Gary?
What happened?
Yeah, looks like Carlos Smith just filed the reciprocity amendment.
Oh, well, kudos to Representative Guillermo Smith. I think that is a smart piece of legislation. A patient reached out to me the other day from out of state, and they said they were coming to visit their family in Florida, and I had to break the bad news to them that we do not have reciprocity. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who is a patient in Florida, and he's happy because when he goes to New Jersey, they do have reciprocity.
It's not the exact bill that I wrote, unfortunately, but because it allows you to have a 2-week medical card for $50.
Well, something is better than nothing.
Yes.
And you're going to have to pay the cost of doing business. And basically, that's the state of Florida saying that if you want to buy weed here and you're from out of state, it's going to cost you $50 up front. I mean, hey, what are they going to do with the revenues? I think that's the more important question, because they're going to, two things are sure in life. You're going to die and you're going to pay taxes. Those are two things you guarantee. So where's the tax money going to go from that? Do they have it earmarked?
Okay, Larned just filed an amendment for public employee protection.
Really?
That's good.
Okay. Well, I would encourage our friends in the Senate to do the same, and hopefully we can get that passed through. You know, public employees, the reason that's important is any employment protection. Like, we originally started with this bill, we believed, and we wrote it in its original form, that anybody in the state of Florida who's a medical marijuana patient should not be fired from a job or precluded from employment just because they're a patient. Like, you know, basically pissing dirty and you're a patient, that doesn't make sense. And you know, hopefully that eventually phase out your analysis as a reliable drug test, because in the grand scheme of things, it's not. If you really want to test someone, an oral swab, you know, right before they get on the job would make the most sense. I mean, we're already testing people for coronavirus like that, where people got to, you know, take the swab before they do it. I think it makes sense for employment standards. If you want to make sure your bus driver, you know, isn't getting stoned before he ends up going, do the oral swab. If you got to operate heavy machinery and you're in a sensitive position, that makes sense. But the fact that, you know, someone has to take a P test to work in a cubicle all day, you know, or you know, they're a public employee and they're getting fired.
I'd have to be high to work in a cubicle.
I think any sentence that involves oral and job should not involve the word swab.
You know, like, sometimes you say stuff and I just don't understand it.
It's okay. Gary brings balance.
I don't
brings balance.
It's deep.
Is it like, was
I grew up in the oral tradition. I'm sorry.
What is happening right now?
Oh my goodness.
All right, guys. I think
well, look. Well, no, I just, again, the expo, I think, is important. The legislative updates are important. You know, I was just speaking with the national normal chapters yesterday. And, of course, we're going to have the other normal chapters across the state are welcome to come to the expo. We'll have a table for them. But, again, the most important thing we could do is continue to move forward. We got to move forward in this state, as Tommy was saying. We can't go backwards. We got to make this state to where, you know, patients aren't being fired. They're not losing their livelihoods. People shouldn't be fired from their jobs for utilizing cannabis. End of story. Like, we got to get to that's the point we're trying to get to. It's going to take baby steps, but we're here to keep fighting, and we can't do it without you. Become a member. suncoastnormal.org. We don't take money to do this job. We want you to become a member. All the money goes into our advocacy work, all of our memberships. We make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure we build a patient-centric system here. And then at a national level, we continue to fight. There's some interesting legislation that hopefully by the end of the year we'll see. The MORE Act is still floating around. Look, demand that Nancy Pelosi bring that to a floor vote. And then in April, we're looking for Majority Leader Schumer to introduce the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. And the Democrats, loud and clearly, you know, if they plan on holding on to the House and to the Senate, I encourage them highly to pass cannabis legalization before the end of the year, before the midterm elections. If they don't, I really don't see them holding on to power. And the worst part is that if we go into a split legislature where there's going to be partisan gridlock, we won't see any legalization bills move out for the rest of Biden's administration. And I just don't see us being able to kick this down to the can down the road another 4 years. Whereas Tommy said, there are people dying and they need access to this. And death is something that is going to shake people up. But at the state level, we're seeing legislatures in places we never thought, like Mississippi and even Texas. And even though they're baby steps and they're not fully medical programs, at least they're getting there. And thanks to the normal chapters in Texas, in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, all across the South, South Carolina, who are fighting in hard prohibition states to get these last few dominoes to fall. Because as we can see, the Eastern Seaboard now, pretty much from Virginia up to Maine, we have legalization in one form or another. The entire West Coast. And then we have, the Midwest now, from Colorado to Illinois, and we're, Ohio's on the horizon with legalization. So the Deep South really is the last bastion of prohibition, and it would strike a big blow to the way the police state in this country is carried out, and how the war on weed has affected so many Americans, over the past 80 years.
Cool. Well, I love you guys.
Absolutely.
Bye.